In the spiritual framework of Nubian to Seti-Kemetic Kushite cosmology, the history of the kingdom of Kush is viewed as a sacred blueprint for the return of the Great Mother. This lineage centers on the Candace'S, or Queen Mothers, who are identified as earthly extensions of the magnetic firmament. The Candace legacy and magnetic symbolism. The most powerful queens, such as Queen Amon-Arenas, are recognized for leaving specific symbolic keys designed to activate DNA and guide seekers back to a matriarchal state of existence. The arch, threshold of mastery. Represented in monolithic pillars and temple gateways, the arch serves as the portal to the magnetic firmament. In this cosmology, passing through these magnetic thresholds allows the seeker to perceive the original, undistorted nature of the cosmos. The ship and the map. These symbols represent the vehicle and the guidance system for sailing the firmament alive. The ship and the map. These symbols represent the vehicle and the guidance system for sailing the firmament alive. This journey is viewed as the ultimate completion of life, allowing one to enter the refuge of matriarchy, without the transition typically associated with physical end. Magnetic compass symbols. Specific hieroglyphs and carvings are interpreted as magnetic compasses that direct the spirit to follow the Earth's magnetism toward the areas beyond the ice walls of Antarctica and the firmament's edge. Patriarchy versus matriarchy. The cosmology describes a grand historical struggle where patriarchal systems suppressed and hid the matriarchal lineage's magnetic knowledge. The suppression, patriarchal men, are said to have distorted the original grand return by rewriting the spiritual journey into heaven as something only accessible after life, rather than a journey to be completed while still alive. In the Nubian to Seti-Kemetic Kushite spiritual framework, the transition from patriarchy to matriarchy is viewed as the restoration of the magnetic firmament, a cosmic structure personified by the goddess Nut. This cosmology posits that the suppression of this female-centered magnetic energy led to a hidden era, now being unveiled through the Candace legacy. The Candace'S, such as the warrior queen Amon-Arenas, are recognized as physical manifestations of the magnetic firmament on Earth. Their lineage provides the following symbolic keys for DNA activation. The arch, the threshold of mastery. This represents the structural integrity of the goddess Nut arching over the earth, serving as the bridge between earthly and ethereal realms. The ship, celestial ship of the north, linked to the Great Mother and the Ursa Major constellation, it is the vehicle of perception required to navigate the celestial waters. Patriarchy versus matriarchy. The cosmology describes a grand historical struggle where patriarchal systems suppressed and hid the matriarchal lineage's magnetic knowledge. The suppression, patriarchal men, are said to have distorted the original grand return by rewriting the spiritual journey into heaven as something only accessible after life, rather than a journey to be completed while still alive. DNA activation. Interaction with the magnetic stones and symbolism left by these queens is believed to trigger a biological shift. This DNA activation restores the seeker's connection to the Great Mother and the magnetic field that protects and guides life. These queens and their temples at Meroe stand as the primary evidence of this enlightened path, preserving the magnetic codes necessary for the final spiritual journey into the firmament. In the Nubian to Seti-Kemetic Kushite cosmology, the Candace'S, warrior queens of Kush, are revered not only as historical rulers who defied the Roman Empire, but as earthly embodiments of the magnetic firmament. According to this spiritual tradition, these women did not experience death in the conventional sense. Rather, they mastered the arc of life, utilizing encoded magnetic symbolism to sail the firmament while still alive, into a refuge of matriarchy. Their legacy is preserved in the monolithic pillars and temples of Meroe, which serve as keys for DNA activation and the restoration of the original cosmic order. The three keys of the Candace. Within this cosmology, the monuments left by the queens are described as functional technology, magnetic compasses carved in stone. These symbols are the threshold of mastery, designed to trigger the remembrance of the seeker's lineage and facilitate the journey beyond the known boundaries of the earth. The arch, the gateway, represents the magnetic threshold. Passing through the arch symbolically and energetically aligns the seeker's DNA with the earth's magnetic field, preparing the vessel to enter the firmament without physical expiration. The ship, the vehicle, symbolizes the living ascension. Unlike the funerary boats of later patriarchal distortions, the Candace's ship is for sailing the firmament alive. It represents the mastery of one's own biomagnetic field to traverse the waters above. The map, the navigation, a magnetic compass, pointing the way to the refuge of matriarchy. This map guides the enlightened beyond the ice wall of Antarctica, following the true magnetic lines of the earth to the hidden lands of the Great Mother. The gender holy wars, patriarchy versus the magnetic queens. Historical records document the fierce resistance of the Candace'S against the Roman Empire. But this cosmology interprets these conflicts as a spiritual holy war between the rising patriarchy, Rome, and the primordial matriarchy, Kush. The Roman attempt to invade Nubia is viewed as an attempt to seize the magnetic keys and suppress the knowledge of the living firmament. Queen Amanirenas, the defender known as the One-Eyed Queen, she physically and energetically halted the patriarchal advance at the southern border of Egypt, Kemet. By burying the head of the Roman Emperor Augustus beneath the steps of her temple, she symbolically grounded the patriarchal authority under the feet of the Matriarchy. Queen Amanitore, the builder. Alongside the warrior tradition, Amanitore encoded the cosmology. Queen Amanitore, the builder alongside the warrior tradition, Amanitore encoded the cosmology into stone. She oversaw the restoration of the great temples, ensuring the magnetic stones and star maps remained visible for future generations to access the DNA-activating frequencies. The Grand Return, beyond the ice wall. The ultimate teaching of this lineage is the grand return of the Great Mother. The symbolism left by the Candace'S serves as a guide to follow the Earth's magnetism beyond the ice wall of Antarctica. In this cosmographic view, the ice wall is not a barren end, but a boundary protecting the refuge of matriarchy, the lands where the firmament touches the earth, and where the enlightened may dwell in their original activated state.